Hello. Hi, everybody. Hopefully everyone's just starting to join. So thanks for joining us. I'm Claire from Colt Pens. Anyone that's joined the workshops will have seen me recently. So thanks very much for coming this evening. Our workshop is going to be led by the lovely Emily Kaye Illustration, who is at the top of the screen. Hopefully for you guys, you can see her giving you a wave. She's going to be guiding us through using edding chalk markers to do some fabulous window decorations with very much a festive theme as well, to get us in the mood for Christmas, because it really is just around the corner. So before we get started, and before I hand over to Emily, I've just got a couple of points of housekeeping to highlight. And again, those of you who've joined these recently will know this already, but we think the session's going to last around 45 minutes. So do make yourselves comfortable. We are recording the session and we will make the recording available as soon as we can, hopefully a bit later this week. So if you do miss anything, you can please ask us a question and we can repeat, but also you will get the chance to watch the workshop again if you want to. So you can practice at home. All your cameras and sound are switched off for the duration of the session. But if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A function. So at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see a Q&A function or a chat function. We don't really mind which. You can ask your questions in there. Holly and myself will be on hand to answer your questions. And where possible, we will gently interrupt Emily to answer some of these as we go through. We may also have time for questions at the end. We'll just see how we go. But please do ask questions as we go through. We love to get the questions and share the answers with everybody where we can. So if you are ready, Emily, I'm going to switch over cameras to you and we can start the session. And perhaps you'd like to start just by giving us a bit of introduction to you and where your passion for art and illustration comes from. I think everyone would love to hear.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily of Emily Kaye Illustration. I've been illustrating for about the last 3-4 years now, and it's something actually that grew from a bit of a side passion. I used to work in engineering, and I was drawing every evening for a bit of a creative outlet. And I then decided that actually I wanted to make that my career. So I ended up studying an MA with Falmouth University and their distance learning program. And since then I've been freelancing as an illustrator. I'm based in the Midlands in the UK. I also do murals. That's a big passion of mine as well, like drawing on big surfaces. But I've got some smaller bits just to wave at the camera. This is something I created in lockdown, which is called Infinite Hugs. That's a little screen print I made just to give you a
That's fabulous, Emily.
little flavour of the kind of style I work with. And also anyone that's joined from Leamington, you might have seen some of my little Leamington maps around, just championing some of my favourite independents in Leamington. I'm not sure if that's come up backwards for you, but you can get a gist of it's quite colourful, quite playful. And yeah, I also sometimes feature with the paintclub.uk. They do some brilliant tutorials just like this one, where you can follow along with a professional artist with your friends, either or colleagues, and you can join them in person in some of their live drawing events or online, and you can paint along with an artist and get some brilliant work at the end of it. So they're definitely someone to look up as well. But today we're here for window drawing. So I'm going to just switch my camera around so that I can show you my canvas. If I can just flip. Here we go. So that should hopefully be on everybody's screens.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Brilliant. So I'll be drawing on the window today. I'm going to be using the edding chalk markers. I've managed to get myself a bundle from Colt Pens, and I'm just going to be talking through some of my tips and tricks, some of the techniques I use for drawing on windows, why they're such a versatile material to work with. Before I actually get into the materials, I thought I would just tell you a little bit about window drawing and some of the benefits of window drawing and why I like it and how I got into it. So for me, it all started because I've been living in rented accommodation for probably the last 10 years. And in each place that I've lived, it's always been a little bit of a should you, shouldn't you put artwork up onto the walls. And as an artist and a collector of art and a lover of art, I've always wanted to display colourful things around the walls. And I used to, you know, try those little sticky pads and the paint would peel off and you'd end up having to try and patch a little bit and match the colour when you moved house. So window drawing solves that problem because you can create artwork, put it up on a wall in unused space, and you can change that with your moods, with the season. And so, yeah, I absolutely love windows for drawing on for that reason in particular. Another great thing about it, I think of it as quite environmentally friendly because you don't have to go through reams of paper. You can literally use your window as your canvas, and especially with the chalk markers, they are water soluble. So, you know, if you change your mind or you want to start again, you can just wipe it clean off and try a new design. Some people are a little bit less confident when they come to drawing, especially if there's been a bit of a break. So again, I find with a brand new sketchbook even, it can be really intimidating, that white page. So knowing that it's not permanent, I think is a real positive. You can try things out, and I find that quite freeing as well. Another thing about it is it's really interactive. So my street in the Midlands, we do an advent calendar throughout Christmas. Well, it's actually from the beginning of December, and participating neighbours will be assigned a different date throughout December, and we decorate our windows and light up our window on that specific date. So it kind of becomes a bit of an interactive art trail. And I think that's really cool because you can create artwork for yourselves and also something of interest for the street. And I think that came out of lockdown. You know, people weren't allowed to go out, so we started to display things in our windows a bit more. But I can definitely see it's something that will continue going forwards. Another last thing that I will just say before I move on to the materials is window drawing isn't just about what you put on the window. You can get some incredible shadows when the light comes through. I've got some little ship drawings that little sailing boats and things. And when the sun comes through, it literally looks like my wall is the ocean. It's really cool. And that's not something I really thought of when I first started window drawing. But now it's something that I really think of when I'm designing. So I think about how the light's going to interact with the design, how that will be portrayed on the wall, and it will change throughout the day as well. So that's really cool. So I think everyone knows now that I really like window drawing. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the materials and then some of the prep work, and then we'll actually get to drawing on the window. So today I'm going to be using the edding chalk markers. I've got this bundle from Cult Pens, and I think you can get a similar one, and I'm sure there'll be a link in the chat if anybody's interested. Just try and hold these up for you. So these are the pens that I've got and I'm going to be using today. I've got some lovely festive silver gold, green, red and white as well. And I believe in the bundle you also get a paper template, so you can basically use that for inspiration or to create a design, especially if you're not confident freehand drawing. It's really a great option. And I know they have loads on their website as well, so I think it's on the edding website. If you want to have a flick through all the different designs they have, there's loads to choose from. So that is the pens. You also may need some tape. Just got some masking tape and also a cloth. I've just got a regular J cloth, and also you'll probably want a old t-shirt or an old tea towel or something like that, just to wash the surface down before you begin. The next thing you need to do is prep your surface. So I just given my window clean down first because you want it to be free of like dust and grime. but I would probably steer clear from using chemical products, mainly because the chemicals can react with the chalk and kind of make the pens act a little bit differently. And I don't think it needs to be spotless. I literally just use a damp cloth, give it a little wipe down, and then with your tea towel, just make sure it's really, really dry, because any water can cause runs. So we want it to be dry and free from dust. Then if you're using a template, you want to adhere it to the other side of the window, especially if you're going to be trying to trace. If you're like me and you live one floor up, please don't lean out of the windows. I've actually got, this is onto a balcony, so I've been able to walk out and pin this up. If you can't do that, just put your design next to where you're going to be drawing and use it for reference. Another alternative though is you can get a glass frame, you know, an old picture frame with some glass in it still. You can even paint onto mirrors. I actually love to paint on a greenhouse, you know, all sides glass. So if anybody locally has a greenhouse they want me to decorate, just let me know. So once you've got your design pinned up and your surface is clean, then you need to prep your pens. So the pens will come with their lids on in the post and they'll be sealed. But before you use them, you're going to want to shake them, because you need to prime the pens to make sure that the chalk is going to come out. So this one, this green one, is already primed, as you can see. I think I've got one possibly that I started to prime, so you might be able to see what they look like. Oh, no, actually this one's primed as well, but basically when they come, the nib will look white, and you just want to, with the lid on, get it a good shake, kind of have a little shake around, and then you want to press the nib of the pen onto a firm surface. I have just been using the lid of the box they came in. So you just want to, I don't know if everyone can see, press down with the nib and just keep pressing until the nib goes from white to the specific color, whether that's white, green, orange, blue. And you'll see once you can sort of write with them that they're ready to use. Avoid kind of stabbing at the nib. I always used to do that when I was little. So just avoid that. But I also know that they sell spare nibs if that does happen and you get a sort of a damaged nib, but they're actually pretty robust, so I don't think there'll be too many problems. Okay. So once you've got your pens prepped and your design is up, you can start drawing. I'm just going to show, well, for the first example, I've actually got a frame here, like I said before, just an old glass panel from a photo frame. And this, I've just put the tape around the edges, which is a pretty good tip, especially for any parents if they're doing this with kids. I've actually lost the frame. I don't know where it went. I had this bit of glass, so I'm just going to be drawing so you can see up close here. I'm going to use the white pen to begin with. Oops, get my lid off. Before you start, I would really recommend just taking your pen and just seeing how it works, just trying some little squiggles. Some people like to hold the pens almost at the tip so that they can draw directly, or you can hold it like you would pen on paper and rest your hand on the surface. But if you are resting your hand on the surface, just make sure that you're not leaning on where you've just drawn, because it will probably stay wet for a few seconds, so you don't want to smudge it. And with window drawing, I find that I do sometimes fill in areas like this. However, you don't need to fill in everywhere. It can be really effective to fill in areas. But also, I mean, if you had a regular pen and paper, if you filled it all in, your pen would run out. So just kind of be selective if you're doing block filling in areas. Some ways to get the kind of impression of a filled in area when you're not using your pen like this is to do things like lots of dots, which can kind of give volume. Or we might use like stripes again to suggest that the areas are filled in. So I'm just going to do a quick example of the template method using the glass here. It's really simple. I've got my design there. I'm just going to trace over the black line. Don't worry too much about being perfect. Sometimes my actual window behind there is really, really thick. And sometimes it looks like I'm not drawing on the right spot. But actually, with practice, you kind of realize it doesn't matter too much. It's just to give you an overall guide. So I'm just going to do the star shape.
That looks great, Emily. We just had someone on the chat mention that they use, instead of glass, they use plastic covers with their kids. So you've not actually got a glass surface to
That's a really good
which is
point.
a good idea.
That's great. I was thinking then earlier, like all the different surfaces you could do. You could, you know, do glassware at home, like Kilner jars and things like that. But yeah, plastic, that's a great idea actually if you're working with kids. You don't want to get, especially with a frame like this, something like Perspex. So I'm on this area, I'm just filling in. Something I find useful with the chalk markers is when you're filling in, just keep your pen moving. Sometimes they will dry, and then because it's putting a small film of chalk almost on the surface, if you go back over it, it will take the chalk, but you don't want to kind of smudge it. So I just keep my pen moving and filling it in, and it's kind of just sliding around and putting the chalk down. It's quite a funny sensation compared to drawing on paper because it does slip around, but it's really amazing how it just kind of blocks in really easily. Oops.
I was just going to mention, whilst you're doing that, someone's asked if they can use a different type of pen. I just want to reiterate, please check. So obviously we're using edding chalk markers and you'll see that they wipe off beautifully. So please check before you use any other product on your windows, just in case. We don't want any permanent artwork causing a problem, anything that's very difficult to remove.
Yeah.
You'll see later that these are very straightforward. It's very simple to wipe off and correct any mistakes.
Yeah, it is really easy, which is fantastic. I'll just remove now from behind, and you can see my little design, hopefully. And I think that's so cool when you get that reveal and you can see what you've done. It's really nice to see the final image. I will actually just wipe some of that off so you can see how easily it comes off as well. Just got like an old sort of t-shirt here, and you can literally just drag it across and it just wipes back away again. So I find it super easy to remove, but it will stay there as well. So it's probably not going to last very long if you do them on the outside, if it's not sheltered. If it gets wet, it might run. But if you've got a sheltered outside window, that's another alternative if you can't do them on the inside for some reason. So I'm just going to do...
Emily, is that a damp cloth you've used then?
That was actually just a dry cloth. It's just a piece of an old t-shirt, but you can use a damp one and then dry it off afterwards. I've gotten in the habit of using dry materials because it does actually come off. Yeah. And then you draw straight back on. You don't have to worry about the water. But
that's a good idea. And have you had any that have been on the window for a while? Does it stick? One of the questions we've had is it harder if you leave it for a while to then get it off?
It will be a little bit more firm, but it's never been difficult to get off. I would say if it's been on there for a few weeks, you then might want to just wet it first. And if I get one where it's like not coming off as easily as I just demonstrated, you can just get your damp cloth, wipe the window down first, and that will allow the water just soak in, and then come back again maybe a minute later and just wipe it off. But it's never stuck on there, so I've never found it difficult.
That's perfect. So if anyone's doing their Christmas decorating windows now, they'll be fine to wipe off in January. It's not going to be a problem.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to demonstrate again doing template design at the top here, and I'm going to do a similar design underneath just to show how you could use another template to reference but also to inspire your own creations as well. So with this one, I think I'm going to concentrate on this top kind of banner. So with this, I'm going to be quite careful to go over the lines again. You might be able to see how thick this glass is because I can't actually see if I'm on top of the lines. It's just about kind of going roughly. And again, hopefully when I reveal at the end, you'll be able to see a bit clearer what that looks like. But down here, I'm just going to do the same thing again. I mean, you could just do any kind of banner you like. You can do really loopy ones. Or we can perhaps do another one that's sort of and it's amazing. It just stays on. You don't really need to sort of reprime it. If you do ever find that the ink or the chalk starts to run out, just give it another shake and you can press the nib again just to recharge the chalk into the nib. But I find they last quite a long time, so that's really useful. So now I'm just going to add on my first decoration. I'm going to do the string in white, and then I'm going to take, I've got these lovely colours as well. So I've got a red one here, and I'm just going to fill that top bit in, maybe do a little bow. And then just follow the outline, just roughly, and then do some of the details as well. And then I think I'm going to do the same sort of thing down here, but just so you can see what it looks like. This is an exercise in trying to remember. And then I'm just going to draw some of the details as well. But I think on this one, I'm going to just do some coloured in patches as well. So I might just colour in this area here. And what you'll find then is if you do have the shadows, this bit will be in shadow on the wall, and anything that's not coloured in will be light. And then you get exactly this shape projected onto the wall, which is really, really nice. There are some thicker nib pens as well, so I've got some of the thicker ones as well, which actually cover a little bit quicker than using the thinner ones. But that's just to show you really what happens when you draw a sort of a shaded in area. There we go. And then I think I'm going to do another one up here. I might start on this side so you can see when I move my hand away, because I'm going to cover it over. We do this one here. It's sort of more of an oval shape. And this one has like some little lines, which are really effective, the use of line to just kind of give like 3D form. I think you can see it in this one. It's really telling you there's a sort of a bauble shape there. I think what I'll do next is maybe just going to go rogue and make up a decoration. So I think we ought to have a carrot for the reindeer. So one thing I love about chalk pens is even if you don't have the orange, you can use form and shape to tell people exactly what it is that you're drawing. So I'm going to draw, that's kind of my carrot shape, and I'm going to draw some little wrinkles because carrots are sort of wrinkly. Kind of looks a bit unlike a carrot at the moment, so I think we need some greenery. Just going to get on my knees now and draw some lovely carrot leafy bits for the reindeer.
So Emily, I'm going to ask you a question, hopefully not interrupt too much whilst you're drawing. But have you tried, we've got a question about using the templates while it's dark outside. And
Yeah.
actually, if you tried doing that during the day, does it make a difference? Because it helps with the black background.
I actually find it's fine either in the day or at night, because when you've got your sheets, if you're drawing on top of the sheet, that's all you're going to be looking at. So it doesn't really matter in terms of daylight. I've been drawing on the windows in the day without any kind of background, just the sky and my neighbour's flats in the background. And that is absolutely fine as well. I've actually put a sheet behind here today just to make it stand out a little bit more and get rid of some of the reflections. But I don't think there's any better time really. I think, you know, if it's dark outside, it might pop a little bit more, but then in the day you've got a bit more sunlight, so the colours might be a little bit more vibrant. Really just depends on what you prefer.
That's great, thank you.
I'm pretty sure our reindeer is going to be happy with this carrot. I quite like to do this when I'm drawing, just have some bits maybe coloured in and some bits just the outlines, and that mixture I think kind of suggests different tones because you're using the glass to kind of be your second colour. So that's just another little thing that I often do. I think we'll go back up here and do maybe the candy cane. Again, just kind of roughly tracing the outline. I'm going to fill in my stripes again like I did before, just to give a little bit more texture. And you get a lovely squeak as well when you're drawing on windows, which I quite like. My neighbours might think I've got mice or something. Okay, and then I think I'm going to do another decoration down here. So one thing I think Christmas isn't really Christmas without is Lego. So I'm going to do a little Lego block for us. And this is just another technique to show how using lines can help us describe a 3D shape when we're drawing on a window in 2D. So for this one, I think I'm going to go back to my red because I quite like this sort of red, green and white sort of thing that's happening. I'm going to have the nail again because I'm too tall. I'm going to draw a sort of a box shape. You might remember this from sort of geometry, drawing a bit of a cube shape. But again, don't worry about perspective because it's just for fun. And I'm going to draw the kind of classic little Lego toppers. There we go. Just filling in again and just keeping the pen moving. And then I think we'll go back up to the top and add in, I've got the heart, but I think I'm going to put it in the middle here. So I'm just going to reference it. And just kind of looking at the heart and drawing just to kind of reference exactly the shape I want to replicate. And then on this one, we've got the sort of couple of lines to just show the 3D shape as well. And I can already see some of the shadows happening behind. I don't know if that's clear for anybody, but already just feels really fun to have that extra image happening, which is really cool. And then I think for my personalised decorations, I'm going to draw a mince pie from the last one. I haven't actually had a mince pie this year yet, and I'm really upset about it. And I keep meaning to, and I haven't had one yet.
That's easily sorted out, isn't it? I'm loving your selection of decorations that you've got.
Oh.
Carrot, Lego, mince pie.
Very food related.
And someone's just mentioned they're currently enjoying a glass of mulled wine. So brilliantly festive, well done.
That sounds amazing. I'm really jealous actually. So I'm going to have on my mince pie, I'm going to do some holly, which I just think is super festive. I mean, you could just do holly all over the window, and that would be really, really like a lovely design, I think. It doesn't all have to be a specific scene. You could just choose to draw snowflakes or baubles. But again, have a look at some reference images either from Edding or on a Google search, and then just kind of be a bit creative. And don't worry, because it's just for fun and it wipes off as well if we don't like what we've done. So I did the line down the middle of my holly, but I think actually I'm going to fill it in on that side. There's no particular kind of method for colouring in. You don't have to be really neat. You just kind of push the pen and sort of, I just got to scribble. There we go. I think I'm going to do some lights maybe up here. So I'm just going to show you how I would do almost like fairy lights. I'm just going to do it on this one, this line that I drew earlier. What I tend to do is, if I'm going to do something spread out across a line like this with lots of little bits like fairy lights, I'll kind of plot where I'm going to put them first. So I like to draw like the little, I don't know what to call it, the little connector, to think about which way is my bulb going to point. And that just kind of helps me plan out my design. I'm just going to draw these little connectors. And then I think I'm going to stick to these three colours that I've been working with, so the red, the green and the white. And then I'm going to just alternate and just draw kind of like lamp sort of shapes. So every three, I'm going to do that white pen. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to reshape my green. And again, if you want to, you can fill them in, or you can leave them as just like outlines. I'm kind of being careful, you can probably see I'm careful not to lean on the work that I've just done, which means quite often your pinky is your best friend, because you can just lean something on the window and keep the rest of your hand away. But after, you know, a couple of minutes or so, it should be dry, but I'm just being a bit cautious because I can't remember which one I did last. That one at the end there. And then we've got our red ones as well. And this is really, really simple, but really effective. And then when you actually have them kind of reflected onto your wall, it's going to look like you've got a gigantic stream of fairy lights. Okay. There was one other thing that I wanted to demonstrate, which I think I'll go back to the glass frame for. It's just the idea of using negative space to be a bit descriptive, a little bit like with the the candy cane. So if you were to draw a bauble, perhaps a round one, if I can draw a circle. One thing that I use as a technique quite often is negative space. So quite often I think we think about outlines to describe things. So if I had a bauble with a sort of spotty pattern, you might draw it like this. But what I really love to do is to draw these kind of shapes and then fill in all the way around. Leave these little windows. I'll do another one there, another one here. Got lovely squeaking. You can just kind of add them as you go, these little areas that are going to be seen. I think you can kind of see where I'm heading for, is that we'll have this shape with our pattern left as the colour of the window. And I just think that's a really nice way of adding two colours to one design. So you might want to do a series of circles, which would represent your baubles, and then maybe a star shape in the middle, or a heart shape in the middle, or you know, the letters of the start of the names of all the members of your family or something like that, and just kind of, you can use that color of the window. Especially this is when the kind of darker window does come in handy, is you've got that black background of the night sky, so you've got this kind of interesting thing happening. So I'm kind of done with the first demonstration, and I'm just going to go outside and reveal what I've been drawing on top of my template so you can actually see the design. I know it's cold, so I'm going to be quick.
I feel like we need a drum roll at this point for the big reveal. Fantastic.
Cat's trying to escape onto the balcony. He's allowed out there. But so as you can see, you've got that design, and I really actually think that's quite a fun way to create your designs, is with the template and then having the kind of big reveal at the end as well. If you'd like, I can do a little bit of a close-up as well. So I'll just take the camera.
Right. And Emily, do you do those? I mean, I think you said you're upstairs in a flat. So do you do those for people in the house, or do you do them for people outside generally?
So I did start doing them as a way to kind of practice drawing, but now my neighbours have started commenting, and so they come up to me and say, oh, I really like what you've done. So this is kind of my interpretation. So you've got the carrot and Lego and a mince pie. Also on this window, I did this recently. These are the boats I was talking about.
Oh, fabulous.
So sorry about the reflections. I haven't got a sheet behind this one, but you can see kind of just very simple white, blue and orange, and using those techniques. So filling in and stripes. Here I've left the windows of the sort of boat as the window, so I get that kind of darker colour, which works really well. And I've also, if I can pull my blinds back.
Oh, seeing a sneaky
bit
of someone we know and love in the corner. Amazing.
So hopefully you can see that. This is me wearing a Santa's beard, or my interpretation of me wearing a Santa beard, and my cat Linny. And that's just a little drawing that I did. But I've done, on this one, I've done the lettering backwards. So I've kind of intended this one for my neighbours to have a look at. So if you want
Love
to
that.
if you want to do lettering, it's quite easy to get a template with the words that you want to portray, and you can just flip it. You can flip it like on an iPhone and then print it and do the template method that we did today. I've actually gotten a lot better at drawing lettering backwards, so I just did it freehand. So you can see
that's very impressive.
Not brilliant size wise, but I quite like that wobbly line, so it's quite a nice way to get some text. But yeah, if you're coming to this and you haven't done it before, you can just do it for yourself. So like my Instagram handle there, I've literally just done it the correct way around, but otherwise print it out and do the template methods, or you could even just have it just above where you're intending to be drawing and use it as a guide. And as I said, it's just, you know, so easy to remove that you can practice multiple times and until it works. So yeah, that's kind of my demonstration done there. If anyone's got any questions or they want to see any other techniques at all, just let me know. I'd be happy to show some other techniques, or if you want to find me on Instagram and ask me some questions, I'm happy for you to do that as well.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Not at all.
Emily, that's great. Right, I'm going to switch our cameras over for a minute, if I can. Just switch back to me for a second, just to say, Emily, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for attending. I just thought that was amazing. The window looks amazing, and you have made that look very easy. So I'm not sure how my practicing is going to go, but I'm going to give it a whirl this year for the Christmas decorating, and let the kids go for it as well. We would love to see all of your creations. If we're having a go with us alongside Emily this evening as she's going through this, or if you're going to have a go at this afterwards and this has inspired you, then please do share your creations with us. So you can share them with us on Cult Pens, and we use the hashtag #CultPensCreative, or you can email them to us at help@cultpens. But also the lovely people at Edding, if you go onto their website, then you look up Window Drawing Week, and within that you can find lots of templates, and I think even some of the templates are reverse templates as well if you want to do lettering. But you can also submit your window creation to the Window Drawing Week's competition that they're going to be running, and so you're in with a chance of winning a prize. So that could be quite good fun, and I think you might start a bit of a trend. Maybe not full advent calendars in your street. I love that, Emily. But you might start a bit of a trend in your area for window decorating, which would be really good fun. As Emily's mentioned, you can also find her on social, and if you just want to look up Emily Kaye Illustration, you will find her on whichever channel you're having a look at. So you can follow Emily for a bit more inspiration. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have recorded the session. So if you've missed anything, you will be able to go over it again, or you might want it running in the background as you're doing your windows. We will share the recording in the next few days as soon as we've got that ready. So you'll be able to take a look. So for now, this is the end of our session, and I'll be closing the webinar shortly. But if you've got any questions, any last minute questions, please post them in the chat. I'll do a check before we close to make sure we've answered everything. And keep an eye out for more workshops. We've got a couple more coming next week, which we're posting about in our newsletters and on social. So we hope that we'll see you all again soon, and you can join us for the next workshop we'll be running. But for now, an early Merry Christmas feels like it's in order. So take care, everybody, and thanks again for joining us. Great to have you all on board.